Some thoughts do not visit, they move in. You know the difference. A visiting thought comes, is felt, and leaves. The moving in thought comes, is felt, and stays. It begins to shape the perception of everything around it. The relationship becomes the relationship filtered through the thought. The work becomes the work evaluated by the thought. The self becomes the self assessed by the thought. The thought is no longer a thought about the thing. It is the lens through which the thing is seen, and the peace was there before the lens arrived. The peace that the thought displaced was real. It can return, not by pretending the thought's subject matter is not real, by removing the thought from its residential authority, by naming it as what it is. A thought, not the fact, not the truth. A thought. They arrive like any other thought, carrying some concern, some unresolved thing, some version of a feared future. And then they stay. They stop being passing visitors and become residents. They arrange themselves in the interior and begin to operate as though they belong there. And the person living with them adjusts gradually to their presence. The peace that was there before they arrived has been slowly displaced. And by Tuesday morning, the displacement feels normal, like this is just how the interior is. It is not how the interior is. It is how the interior became when the thoughts moved in without being asked to leave. Take a breath right now. Notice what thought is resident in your interior this morning, the one that woke up with you, the one that has been sitting in the place your peace used to live. It has been there long enough that you may not even notice it as an intruder anymore. It just feels like Tuesday. But it is a thought that moved in, and it can be asked to leave. That is what this prayer is. His word declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 3, that you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Perfect peace. That is not the description of a mind occupied by the thought that stole the peace. It is the description of a mind that is fixed on something more real than the thought. Steadfast, set, not moving with every thought that arrives and demands the mind's primary attention, fixed on what is true rather than carried by what is feared. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, Lord, I release the thoughts that have been stealing my peace. I give you what moved in without permission. Write it as the eviction, the honest naming of the resident that was not invited. Share this prayer with someone you know is living with a thought that moved in. You do not have to know what the thought is. Just give them this. It may be exactly what their Tuesday morning needs. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every morning together before the resident thoughts have set the day's tone. And come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day. Now let us name what moved in and begin the eviction. Lord my God and my Father, I come before you on this Tuesday morning, and I name the thought that has been stealing my peace. It might be the thought about the relationship that is not in the place I need it to be. That thought has taken up residence in the evaluation of every interaction with the person. Every exchange is filtered through it. Every silence is interpreted through it. The relationship thought has been running commentary on the relationship without being asked to, and the commentary is almost always the worst-case version. It might be the thought about the work situation, the fear about whether what I am doing is enough, whether the direction is right, whether the thing I cannot control is going to resolve in the way I need it to. That thought sits in the background of every productive hour and quietly adds its worry to whatever focus the hour was trying to sustain. Or it might be the thought about myself, the specific, quiet, persistent evaluation that I am somehow less than what this season requires. That the gaps between who I am and who I am trying to be are evidence of something more fundamental than ordinary human limitation. That thought is the most corrosive resident. It does not leave during the prayer. It tries to attend the prayer as a commentary on whether the prayer is being done right. I name the resident thought. I acknowledge it has been there, and I acknowledge what it has been costing. The resident thought costs peace, yes, but it also costs energy. The mental energy of a person who is partially occupied by the resident thought in every conversation, every task, every quiet moment is not fully available for what those moments actually require. The thought is drawing from the reserves, even when the person is not consciously thinking about it. By Tuesday morning, the cost is visible, not always in what was produced or what failed, in the quality of the engagement, the slight distance, the not quite fully there-ness that the resident thought creates. I bring it here, before you, rather than continuing to live around it as if its presence is inevitable. Your word declares in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5, that we take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Take captive. That is not the passive experience of a thought that is allowed to stay, because identifying it feels too exhausting. It is the active, deliberate identification and capture of the thought that has been operating unchallenged. The thought is real. The thought can be named. The named thought can be brought before Christ. And in the bringing, what the thought was claiming as its rightful residence is challenged by something more true. Lord, I release the thoughts that have been stealing my peace. I give you what moved in without permission. Father, I want to understand something about why these thoughts steal peace so effectively. They steal peace by making themselves feel like facts rather than thoughts. The thought about the relationship does not present itself as a thought. It presents itself as the truth about the relationship. The thought about the work situation does not say, I am a fear about the work situation. It says, this is how the work situation is. The thought about myself does not announce itself as a distorted self-assessment. It speaks with the authority of objective fact, and the peace cannot coexist with what the mind believes is a fact. The mind can have peace about a thought. It cannot have peace about a fact that threatens it. The thought becomes the fact. The fact generates the anxiety. The anxiety displaces the peace, and the mind never questions whether the thought that became a fact was actually a fact to begin with. The eviction requires the challenging of the fact claim. This is a thought, not the truth. This is a thought about the relationship, not the relationship itself. This is a thought about the work situation, not the work situation's actual state. This is a thought about who I am, not who I actually am. The thought is a visitor pretending to be a resident. The resident status was never legitimately granted. Your word declares in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, to not conform to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The pattern of this world is the thought that becomes fact pattern. The mind shaped by the fear's version of reality. The renewing is the mind being shaped by what is actually true. Not the thought's version, God's version. And the renewing happens in the presenting of the thoughts to the truth, rather than the accepting of the thoughts as the truth. Lord, I release the thoughts that have been stealing my peace. I give you what moved in without permission. And here is what happens when the thought is correctly identified as a thought rather than a fact. It becomes smaller, not disappears, smaller. The thought about the relationship that was presenting itself as the truth about the relationship is, when correctly identified as a thought, one interpretation among several possible ones. The thought about the work situation that was presenting itself as a confirmed outcome is, when correctly identified, a fear about a possible outcome. The thought about myself that was presenting itself as objective assessment is, when correctly identified, the inner critic performing its usual function, smaller, not gone, but no longer filling the interior with the authority of the fact. And in the smaller, the peace finds its way back in. Not to the whole interior at once, to the space the thought was occupying at full false fact authority. Into that specific space, the peace that the thought was preventing. Take a breath right here. Feel the thought that was named earlier. Say to it what it needs to hear. You are a thought, not the truth about the situation. A thought, and then notice what that naming does. Even slightly, the authority reduces, the grip loosens. The interior has a small amount more space than it did before the naming. That space is where the peace re-enters, small at first, expanding as the practice continues. Lord, I want to receive something about what the mind looks like when the thoughts have been given to God rather than housed in the interior. It looks like available. The mind that is not occupied by the resident thought has attention that is genuinely available for what is actually present. The person across the table is received by the mind that is not simultaneously running the thought's commentary. The work in front of the person is approached by the mind that is not dividing its focus between the work and the thought's assessment of whether the work is sufficient. The Tuesday is inhabited by a person who is actually in the Tuesday. That availability is not the same as having no concerns. The concern is real. The uncertain situation is still uncertain. The relationship is still in the place it is. The work situation is still developing. The availability is what happens when the concern is held by God, rather than housed in the interior as the resident that has displaced the peace. The concern is given to the right holder, and the interior that gave it away has room for what the Tuesday actually offers. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 22, to cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. The casting is the eviction. The care is cast. The interior is no longer the care's residence, and the sustaining follows the casting. The peace is not produced by the absence of concerns. It is the condition of the interior that gave the concerns to the right place, held by God, not housed in the person, and something about the available mind that is worth receiving on a Tuesday morning. When the resident thought is gone, things become noticeable that the thought was preventing from being noticed. The small grace that is present in this specific June Tuesday, the person who did something kind that the thought-occupied mind moved past, the evidence of the faithful God working in the situation that the thought was presenting as abandoned. When the thought that was taking up residence moves out, these become visible again. They were always there. The thought was in the way. Lord, I release the thoughts that have been stealing my peace. I give you what moved in without permission. Father, I want to ask for the practice, the specific, returnable, daily practice that keeps the eviction from being a one-time event. Because the thoughts will try to return. The relationship thought will present the next piece of evidence for its interpretation. The work thought will find the next moment of ambiguity to colonize. The self-critical thought will locate the next gap in the next performance. They are practiced residents. They know the roots back. The practice is the noticing. Before the thought has established itself at full resident authority, notice it. There it is again. The relationship thought, the work thought, the self-assessment thought. Name it, not as fact, as the thought it is. Lord, this thought is back. I see it, I give it to you again. And the giving is the eviction. Repeated, as many times as the thought returns, not exhausting, practiced. The first time is the hardest because the thought has had the most time to establish itself. The second time is easier because the first time happened. The 10th time is a habit. The 100th time is a different relationship to the thought entirely. It is no longer the resident. It is the visitor that the person knows how to receive and release. The same visitor, different authority. Because the practice built a different interior. Your word declares in the book of Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, that whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about such things. The practice of the mind, not the suppression of the difficult thought. The choosing of what the mind returns to when the difficult thought has been named and given to God. The true things, the noble things, the lovely things, Those are what the interior fills with when the resident thought has been evicted and the peace has been restored. The filling determines whether the eviction holds. Fill the interior with what is true today, not as a denial of what is difficult, as the honest accounting of the full reality, which always contains more grace than the resident thought was allowing the person to see. And today, this specific Tuesday, there are true things in it that the resident thought was going to prevent from being registered. Something will happen today that is genuinely good, a moment of connection, an unexpected small kindness, a piece of work that goes well, a conversation that is better than feared. These things are in the Tuesday. The resident thought was going to make them invisible. The eviction creates the eyes to see them. Look for the true and lovely and admirable today. They will be there. They are always there. The resident thought was the only thing preventing them from being received. Father, as this prayer closes, I want to say something to the person who is not sure the eviction will work, who has tried before, who has named the thought and given it to God and found it back by the Tuesday afternoon. The eviction is not a one-time event. The thought will return, and the returning is not evidence that the prayer failed. It is evidence that the practice is needed, that the thought is persistent, and that the person who keeps doing the practice is building something the thought cannot permanently displace. The peace is not the absence of the difficult thought. The peace is the mind that knows what to do with the difficult thought when it returns. Take it captive. Name it as a thought. Give it to God. Return to what is true. That practice is the peace, not the state where the thoughts have finally stopped coming. The practiced response to each returning, and the practiced response, built through the Tuesdays of consistent bringing to God, becomes the interior's new default. The thought loses its residential authority. The peace finds its way back in, again, every time. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 23 and 24, that search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. The anxious thoughts known by God, not hidden from God, known, and the leading that follows the knowing is the leading in the way everlasting. Not the way the anxious thought was pointing, the everlasting way, the true path. The peace restored, that is what is available this Tuesday. The naming, the giving, the practice, the peace that returns when the thought is given to the right place. And the everlasting way, which the thought was never going to find, receiving the person who chose the right direction this morning before the Tuesday had set its own. Lord, I release the thoughts that have been stealing my peace. I give you what moved in without permission. That is the declaration this Tuesday begins from. The thought was named. The eviction has begun. The peace that was displaced is returning to the space the thought was occupying, not all at once, the way the tide returns, but returning. And the Tuesday that opens from this prayer is entered by a person who knows the difference between the thought and the fact, who has a practice for the thoughts returning, and who is moving toward the peace that surpasses understanding rather than away from it. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, you know which thought it is, the one that has been there. Name it one more time and write it in the comments. Lord, I release the thoughts that have been stealing my peace. I give you what moved in without permission, and then use the practice all day. As many times as the thought returns, it is not too many. It is the building of the interior the thought cannot displace. May the Lord evict what has moved in without permission and restore what the residency displaced. May the practice of naming and releasing become so natural that the thought loses its residential authority. May the Tuesday be inhabited by a person who is genuinely present rather than occupied by the resident. And may you arrive at Wednesday with the specific lightness of someone whose interior has more room than Tuesday started with. In Jesus' name, amen.